Okay, going to try this again. I'm going to attempt to post a two-part video here. First part, flowers out front. Second part, garden out back. Seems to be a lot of interest in gardening, especially since the pandemic last year, so I'm here to show you around my garden and maybe help you guys get your gardens going as well. Today I'm using a camera that's mounted on a pair of sunglasses, so this is the last you're going to see me, thank God. Okay, so here we are, gonna start out front. I call this the strip by the sidewalk. It's a very narrow flower garden and mostly stocked with volunteers. This is a volunteer cosmos. These here are a succulent called chicks and hens, or maybe hens and chicks, and we planted those in the fall, probably 2018, 2019. They're doing real well. They're supposed to kind of fill in here. They don't take much water. When they do get a lot of water, you get these big seed clusters on here. Not sure whether to prune them off or not, but I'm just going to let them grow. There's some bulbs that we've planted, and of course they're done for the year. This is a weed that we get in our yard. It's called bindweed. You really can't get it out by the root. Your best bet is just to keep on top of it. It looks like I might have got it by the root, but trust me, that thing goes down about 12 feet. So best bet is just to keep picking the green, and eventually it'll die off because it needs photosynthesis. More cosmos that are all volunteer. These here are bachelor buttons. Bachelor buttons came in a seed pack that Leona bought at the Dollar Tree a couple of years ago, maybe last year. And we discovered that the goldfinches really enjoy getting into these bachelor buttons and eating the seed once they go to seed. So these things are going to be in our yard for years to come because we love birds in our family. Again, we've got some more cosmos, all volunteers. Basically what I do with the cosmos and the bachelor buttons is in the spring when they start to plant, I thin them out and I get them to fairly even spacing, a little cluster of cosmos here, a little cluster of bachelor buttons there, and so forth. Next we have some hollyhocks that we got from my wife's sister's yard. Her husband Aaron said this one right here would never survive. It was just a little spindly root with a green leaf attached, and he didn't think it'd survive. But look at it now. It's really blooming. You can see that the bees love it. Hummingbirds come around in the morning and in the evening, and they like those flowers too. Mostly everything I've planted in this front yard is to attract pollinators, especially hummingbirds. I love hummingbirds. I also love bees, butterflies, you name it. So we want to attract pollinators to the yard because we also like to grow vegetables, and you need pollinators to grow vegetables. Look at that one. I believe that butterfly might be a painted lady. If you know what it is, please put it in comments. But look at how pretty that butterfly is. I don't think I've seen a painted lady until just now this year. Seems to be a shortage this year of hummingbirds. There was a big die-off, I guess, over New Mexico in the fall migration of all kinds of different birds, and maybe hummingbirds were affected too. Starting on the left, we've got red hot pokers. This is the second blooming of this particular plant. We planted these in the fall of, I want to say, 2018. We didn't really, no, I'm going to say 2019. We didn't expect them to bloom at all last summer, but this one did. This one hasn't bloomed last year or this year, so probably next year it will bloom. Right here we've got a lemon tree. It really likes being on the porch up here. We've got petunias. Of course, hummingbirds like those. We've got dahlias, another petunia. This one fell over. We had a little accident. I think it'll make it though. This right here is called a mandevilla, and look at those beautiful red blossoms. This is a tropical vine. We have to keep it inside all summer long, but it's just beautiful out here on the porch. And you know what likes to eat the nectar off of these flowers? You got it, hummingbirds. I always try to attract hummingbirds. I love to watch them. This is a lavender. I just planted it this year. And over here we have a penstemon, a couple of penstemons I got out of my mother's yard. hummingbirds like these. This is a Mexican sunflower right here that this little bee is visiting. And Aunt Ruth told me that I should plant Mexican sunflowers and also bee balm to attract hummingbirds. And you know what? The hummingbirds do like the Mexican sunflowers. So do the bees. Nice little fountain we have growing there. More Mexican sunflowers. This is Russian sage. We transplanted it out of the in-laws' yard in Peaceful Valley before they moved away. And if I get a little closer, you'll be able to see a lot of different species of bees. There's some tiny ones. There are some bigger ones. But the bees all love the Russian sage. And I love the bees because they pollinate the garden. Speaking of bees, this is bee balm. I've got 4 bushes of bee balm. Now this red hot poker, first time this has sent up a bloom, so excited about that. The bee balm started out with these little tiny seeds that didn't want to sprout, didn't want to thrive. Only 4 of them made it to adulthood, but look how big they are. Can you imagine this huge plant right here started out from a seed the size of a poppy seed. There's a great big bumblebee right there. I'm going to see if I can get a little closer to it so you guys can see it. Look how pretty that thing is. These are supposed to be an attractant for hummingbirds also. And they're not really supposed to grow in my area, but guess what? These are growing really well in my area. Maybe I'll cover them in the wintertime, but they survived over last winter. We had a pretty good cold snap. It got down to maybe 15 below, so it didn't get too bad last winter. And then right here we have lamb's ears. The lamb's ears are another plant that I put in to attract hummingbirds. I also read online, don't plant lamb's ears because they'll take over, but that's fine. They can take over this area. They can take over that whole area right back there, because there's nothing else growing there except weeds that I have to keep picking again and again, and weeds won't grow in here because the lamb's ears smother it out. You can see that there's a lot of bee activity in there, and like I say, the hummingbirds like this stuff too. I've seen them down at the in-laws' place getting nectar off of these lamb's ears. Gee, I wonder why they call them lamb's ears. Those are nice and soft. Coming back here, we've got the dill. Corey is one that doesn't like to have dill in the vegetable garden because it tends to be pretty prolific volunteer plant. And these are all volunteer this year. Corey put me in a couple rows of dill last summer, and this is all from that seed that grew from the plants last summer. This is kind of a dwarf variety of dill, if you're wondering how come it's only about 4 feet tall or so. But it tastes just like regular dill, and I really like it. I love having dill in the yard. And then the last thing to show you in the flower garden is this right here. This is a trumpet vine that I thought was dead at this spring. Leona and I put this trumpet vine in last spring, so springtime of 2020. And so we didn't really expect it to flower last summer. We thought it would this summer, but I thought it was dead. Around about April, everything in the yard was coming alive except for this. So I cut it back, thinking that I'm just going to remove this trellis and use it for something else. But what do you know? A couple weeks later, there was this explosion of growth out of the ground, and look at this thing. Hopefully next year it will sprout. I'm going to have to do a little research and find out what I'm supposed to prune this fall. But that's real pretty. I'm also going to have to extend this trellis all the way up to the roof because supposedly they get, I don't know, 20 feet tall or something like that. So anyhow, that is the front yard. The next video will be the backyard.